Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this, the 50th anniversary of Arunachala Ashram on December 8th, 1966. It was incorporated in the state of New York. So everything has an origin and everything has an end. But when I asked Bhagavan what the most important verse in the Bhagavad Gita said, he said they're all important. But they kept pushing him, and he said, okay, chapter 10, verse 20, Aham Atma Gura Kesha Sarva Bhuta Shayastitaha Aham Adishtya Madhyam Cha Utanam Anta Eva Cha. So, I am the beginning, O Gura Kesha. I am the self of all. I am the beginning, I am the middle, I am the end of all. So, the beginning, the middle, and the end, that's the Supreme Self. That's the origin of everything. And that's what was prayed to by Vishnu and Brahma. When that self of all was prayed to by Brahma and Vishnu, we got our Lord of mercy and grace, Arunachala, and the beginning of the creation of this world. So it's where it all begins and where it all resolves. I thought there was a very interesting conversation. Dr. Saeed asked Bhagavan, you are an Advaitin, and you singled out this mountain and praised it as God. How can you do that? You are an Advaitin, everything is one. And Bhagavan had a beautiful answer. He should have been an attorney like his father. He said, the hymns and praise, the object of praise, and the one who praised is all the self. And that's Arunachala. And that's Bhagavan also. So this is my little thesis, and to begin with, which you all know, I'm just going over it. You see that Arunachala is Jnana-Agni, the fire of knowledge, in the form of a hill. It is Lord Shiva himself. Bhagavan has said that just as we individuals identify ourselves with our bodies, the Supreme Self identifies itself with this Arunachala mountain. And down through the ages, those rich in jnana tapas were drawn to this hill for the fulfillment of the ultimate aim of self-realization. And in order to enlighten the world to its spiritual power and teachings, Arunachala Shiva, in his mercy, absorbed the individuality of a 16-year-old boy in Madurai and guided him to his slopes on September 1st, 1896. And there is the 16th, closest thing we have to the 16-year-old boy. Previously, Arunachala was just a regional place of pilgrimage. The Kartikeya Deepam was just a regional celebration of the history of the mountain. But now, at this period of time when globalization is predominant and everyone knows everything about everywhere, the perfect time for Bhagavan to come and transmit, not only the teachings but the power of the mountain to all of us. So when there he reigned as the king of the yogis on his slopes, showering his light and love on all beings, until April 14th, 1950, when he merged back into the source from whence he came, Arunachala Shiva. Okay, now we are in North India. We're on the train going to Darjeeling. I have taken it 1977. So Bhagavat Prasad was born, Bhagavat Prasad Singh. He was born in November 8th, 1912, in a small, remote village, which is inaccessible in the rainy season. No electricity. Nobody even left that village for education until Bhakta Bhagavat came along. So he was a very serious academic young boy. His parents were illiterate. But they saw this child was so interested in books and learning and not interested in playing. They said, this is going to be the boy of our family who's going to leave the village and get some academic achievement and do something with his life. So he's a very serious young boy. He attended the Begusarai English High School. Everyone picked on him because he's just a villager, sent to a school, but he got back at all of them because he had the highest grades in his class. So even as a little boy, he was fascinated with Mahatma Gandhi's movement. And he was active since he was about the age of 8. He became active with the Mahatma Gandhi's movement. So he went to college in Patna and also at the Hindu University in Benares. He had a very difficult time because at the age of 17 he was imprisoned for 6 months because of his political activity. And then his education was delayed because of lack of money. But eventually he got his degree, and the first real job he had was here in Darjeeling. And since his boyhood he was reading about all the saints and Mahatma. He used to get the magazine Kalyan. Some of the older people may have heard about it, from Gita Press Gaurapur. And so he always said that Ramatirtha, I don't know if anyone of you heard of Ramatirtha, Ramakrishna and Ramana. These are the teachers that guided, these are the two teachers that took him to Bhagavan, Ramatirtha and Ramakrishna. So he was in Darjeeling at this time, 1940. Actually, it was 1941. He was a teacher, and also he served as a principal for a short time. It was a Hindi school. A friend of his, this Pandit, who started the Hindi school, and Patna gave him the job there. And what happened, oh, I see. He got the book, Gupta Bharata Ki Khoj. That's a search in secret India. So that was October 10th, 1940. He remembers all the dates. He should have been a historian back when Ashoka was there, because we wouldn't have missed anything. So he got the book on October 10th, and he says, while reading the book, he felt that Bhagavan was sitting on Arunachala and looking at me. He writes, he was pouring his grace on me. From the moment the book came into my hands, I was glued to it, and upon reading it, decided to go down to Arunachala to have darshan. He said, I could see Bhagavan with my mind eyes, looking at me and pouring his grace. Then came the winter vacation. I think it was 1941 or 42. But unfortunately at that time, he was impressed also with the chapter written in the stars. Now that's a chapter on astrology, and he was always interested in astrology in his youth. So at first he said, I'll go to Ujjain and study astrology at that point. So he got sidetracked. And so although he applied himself to the study of astrology in Ujjain, he said, I never wavered in my devotion to Bhagavan Ramana. Two of his school teachers from his home in Begusarai, he persuaded to go down to Arunachala and see Bhagavan. And they came back and reported to him. So you can imagine how many people from all over India actually went and saw Bhagavan, unknown to anybody there, had darshan for 1 or 2 days, and came back. We don't know about all those thousands of people. This is one instance there. It takes place in a remote area in Bihar. What recording is there of Biharis going to Bhagavan? But they did go during Bhagavan's time.
And that was from Begusarai.
That's from Begusarai. Something wrong with Begusarai? Nothing wrong with Begusarai. So since what happened when he left Darjeeling that time, that was it was like a security controlled territory, Darjeeling. They found out about his incarceration for political activity, and they wouldn't let him back into Darjeeling because I think a lot of military people were going there at that time. And so he had to go look for another job, and he worked in Ujjain on the editorial staff of the Vikram. He also participated in the Quit India movement. He met Mahatma Gandhi in Calcutta, and he worked in Calcutta in the English Hindustan Standard. Then we have to tell the story about him wanting to come to America. From his childhood, he admired American democracy. He said, this is the land of freedom. In fact, they succeeded in breaking off from the British. That must have been attracted him also. But he was idealistically prone to everything that came his way. Even he read the life of Gautam Buddha when he was 12 years old. And he told his mother he wants to renunciate the world. He wants to become like Buddha. But all these idealistic times, this was a very idealistic time in the country. People were absorbing these ideals for freedom, and Mahatma Gandhi gave a good direction not only for individual freedom and national freedom. And Bhagavat took that in. So he participated in the movement there and quit India. He also had the job. And then he got a fellowship to come to America in 1947. So he had no money, and a friend of his lent him the money to take the ship. Now, he told me the name of the ship many times, but it still hasn't come to me. and so he took the ship from Calcutta to Boston. And then he got a fellowship at Iowa University for 2 years to get a master's degree in journalism. And after that, he was hired by the Indian Embassy in Washington, D.C. That's a picture of it now. And he worked as the information officer. You have seen it? Does it look the same? That's it now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There he worked for about, 8-9 years. And this is the they had some. He told me about this picture. Look at it. He looks very slick young man. This was in the embassy in Washington. What happened there? They had some special program on Mahatma Gandhi. And they invited, this is Vincent Sheen. He's the author of Lead, Kindly Light. I don't know if you're familiar with the book.
Yes.
And even Alfred Hitchcock, took one of his writings and novels and put it into a movie. He's a very popular novelist and writer at that time. So, and then he got he got tired of working for the government. And he said he'll write books or he'll go back to India or anything. So he left, and someone told at Iowa University they'll give him a fellow, they'll let him teach there. So he went back there, but that never materialized. So then he came back to Washington, parked his car on some corner, dragged his wife, got on the plane, and said, I'm going back to India. I'm tired of all the concrete and all the buildings. I want to go back to the village. So he went back to the village. And so there at the village, he always said, no one even asked me, what is America like? And he was totally impractical, Bhagavat. He's always walking above, the ground. Even his wife, he pitied his wife. He had so much compassion for his wife. He said, she was only 8 years old when he got married. She got married. 8! But Bhagavat was 17. Bhagavat was 17, but what happened, he didn't want to get married, but his older brother was a widower. And he wanted to remarry, and they couldn't get any girl in the village to marry a widower. So they saw how studious he was, one of this family where he's going to school. And they had 2 daughters, and they said, we're going to marry one of our daughters to this man. And the only way we can do it, we'll make a condition, we'll marry the other daughter to the widower. So he heard the arrangement, everything, he ran away to Patna. He knew some sadhu there, and he ran away to that sadhu. They came and got him and pleaded with him, look at this family, this brother, older brother, was sending him through education, working hard and paying for anything, and he relented and got married. But you know how it is when you're married young like that, you don't live with your wife for decades. Or 2. And that's how it happened. He traveled around, worked and everything. He came to America without her. She only came when I think in Washington, when he came to Washington. So then, when he went to India, he finally made his first visit to Arunachala. And he came back in 1959, 1960. He made his first visit to Arunachala. In fact, he ran out of money there. He had no money. He spent all his money. One of his nephews paid for his fare to come and everything. And that's when he talked with Arthur Osborne. Arthur Osborne mentioned to him, you're going back to America? He said, I don't know if I'm going. But if you go back, you should start some meetings on Bhagavat. Now's the time. So, in fact, he couldn't get a job there. And what happened at the time, he was a good friend of... there's a famous poet named Dinker.
Ramdhari Singh Dinkar. Ramdhari Singh Dinkar.
That was a
Ramdhari
good,
Dinkar.
that was a good friend of him. In fact, he got him, Bhagavat got him involved in Bhagavan. Even at the Ramana Kandra with Professor K. Swaminathan, they opened the Kandra together. He was there for all that Dinker. He was a famous poet and a friend of the Prime Minister Nehru. So that Dinker interceded, said, can't you get him a job back in the U.S.?
Yeah.
So he got a job at the United Nations, Indian Mission to the United Nations. But from then on, he used to wear the vibhuti and kumkum. And I've seen pictures, I can't find it, I think it's on heaven. He's in the Assembly of the United Nations, and he's standing there, he's got big red mark on his vibhuti. Since he went in 1960 to Arunachala, he continued that for the rest of his life. So then this went on, but he got a position teaching Indian civilization at Bates College for 1 year in 1963. Then he continued to work in the mission to the United Nations till 1966. When he was up in Bates College, someone said to him, "What are you?" He said, I'm on a visa here." And it's an immigration officer who he met. He said, "What kind of visa?" "Diplomatic visa." He said, "Do you want to become a resident here? I can get you a green card." And he said, "How can you do that?" At that time, they were encouraging diplomats to defect into America. The Cold War was going on. So it was like a blanket policy. So he said, "You're a diplomatic visa, I can get you a green card." So he got him a green card when he was in Bates College there. But he never got a citizenship. He didn't want a citizenship. He just wanted to remain an Indian. So he got the green card. So then in 1960, it was really 1965, he started having meetings here. This is the American Buddhist Academy. It would be weekly meetings on Bhagavan. And you read in the January 1967 Mountain Path.
There's a question here.
Where is this location?
It's on the west side, I think it's on Riverside Drive, on the west side of Manhattan.
Upper West Side.
Upper West Side, you seen it?
What street?
It's the American Buddhist Academy. I'm not sure, I think it's on the Riverside Drive. There's a line there before the park, facing the Hudson River. So in the Mountain Path in January 1967, you'll see an account saying, an Arunachala Ashram, known alternately as Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi Center, has been established in New York through the untiring efforts of Sri Bhagavat Prasad Singh. What had happened when he went to Arunachala in 1960, he changed the name to Arunachala Bhakta Bhagavat. Actually, he had to put on his passport. And it has been established in New York through the untiring efforts of Bhagavat Prasad Singh, and is being incorporated under the laws of New York as a non-profit religious organization. The 16th anniversary of the Mahasamadhi was celebrated on 15th April 1966 in the American Buddhist Academy, 3331 Riverside Drive, New York, with chanting, prayers, and talks by Dr. Harry Dickman and Jerry Cox, both of whom had the grace of coming to Sri Bhagavan in their lifetime. Spoke about the precious experience. And Bhakta Bhagavat told how, although he never had the great good fortune of seeing Bhagavan in his lifetime, Bhagavan was the sun lighting up his whole life. So that was the first report in the Mountain Path about Arunachala Ashram.
Dennis, where was Bhagavat living at that time? Where was his residence?
He was living in an apartment in Brooklyn. Although he had another apartment in Manhattan, but I think by that time he moved to Brooklyn. So then, through some devotees, they rented a room in 78 St. Mark's Place. This is like 8th Street on the Lower East Side. It's an upstairs room in this building. You can barely see it. It says 80 there, but that door going around is 78 St. Mark's. 80 is the one below. But so they started having daily meetings there at that time. So here's a picture from the Mountain Path. You know, you can't make it. I was looking for the original. I wrote to John Maynard to have it there. But of the group, you know, you can see his wife. Yoga Maya.
Can you point out, Dennis?
Yeah.
Yeah, use the pointer from your...
Okay. Well, you can't hear me. Okay, there's Yoga Maya, his wife. There's Bhakta Bhagavat there. This is Bhaskar, their son, who used to go with them to the American Academy also. I mean the Buddhist Academy, and even there, he would go every week, regardless if anybody came. And he said to his son and his wife, "No one's coming, should I continue?" And they said, "Yes, we have to continue, we have to continue." So his wife and his son encouraged him a great deal in their younger days. And these are all, devotees there that, that were coming at the time. The name is there, Isaac Surtel. He was one of the signees of the Incorporated. Robert Helen came to Bhagavan. He came to Ramana Ashrama. I met him also. Robert Helen. He's back here. And Yogamaya. And Jean-Marie, she's the lady who rented this place for the ashram. So this was in the 1967 January mountain path.
Can you read the name of the Indian lady there?
Okay, standing.
No, this
Mrs. Lee Good.
That's Yogamaya.
And this is Mrs. Louis Guha.
Oh, Louis.
And then,
Bengali lady.
and then there's a Mrs. Gloria Rananda.
Okay, thank you.
And her husband Joe, Leslie Rananda. Bhagavat. So there's a group picture. This is from another group picture which I couldn't find when Bhagavat did. And this is the Jean-Marie Marley. This is from the mountain path. This picture was in the mountain path. And then in, around 1970, they moved to 342 East 6th Street. This is another storefront. They just put a picture of Bhagavan. You can see it probably here. They put Arunachala Ashrama. Now this street is between 1st and 2nd Avenue. And after we came, all Indian restaurants opened there. I don't know why. Both sides of the street got loaded with Indian restaurants. But people would come by and look at the picture of Bhagavan. You see there's just a curtain there. So we didn't even close the door, so people would come in and peek. And we'd be chanting and they'd maybe come and sit down. Even drunkards would come down and lay down. But so after every satsang in the evening, Bhakta Bhagavat would cook. And he was like Swami Vivekananda, he kept chilies in his pocket. I had to go out of the room there because that was too strong. I couldn't take it. So this is also another picture of that Bhagavat. You can see there's a restaurant there, Matali or something next to it. And that's still a bookstore there.
What year was this?
This picture was probably 1970, 71, or 73, I would say, 73. This is a little later. Now here, you may recognize Evelyn there. Evelyn, this is Arthur. So this is like 1975 or so, 1975. That's Margot. And that's Evelyn's, deceased husband, Paul. So that's probably, mid-70s.
Look at Bible sitting on the
So who's sitting next to Margot?
Who's the last?
On the right.
His name is Scott Hyde. He's a photographer. He came for a year or so, and then we didn't see much of him.
And who took the photo? Did you click the photo?
I don't think so. I can't remember. I was here when I first came. I came in 1971. So I come in here. I called him. I had the address from Ramana Ashrama, and it said 78 St. Mark's Street. So I went there, and I knocked on the door, and nobody's answering. It was maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm knocking again for 9 o'clock, and nobody's answering. I knock a third time, and somebody shouts out, "Go away!" And I said, "This must not be the ashram, I guess."
What drew you to it, Dennis? How come? Why did you go there?
Samskara.
You just knocked on the door?
No, I heard about, I had books from Ramana Ashram. I had went to India once, and so I had 78 St. Mark's Street, that's the address, and they said, I was living in some remote place in Adirondacks. So I took a bus and stayed in the YMCA and went. So when I came in, then I called the telephone number, and someone answered the phone and said, Arunachala Ashrama, namaskar, namaskar, namaskar. Very enthusiastic. I said, okay, namaskar. I said, I want to visit the ashram. He said, okay, I'm not coming till like 6 o'clock. And that was like maybe not 10 or 9. So I waited there, and he, Bhakta Bhagavat was a journalist, a writer. And whatever was within it poured out. He would sit at the typing machine, and he would be meditating, and then he'd just start typing. It just pour out, pages after pages. These are prayers to Bhagavan. Aparna has seen 3 paragraphs, perfect. Same amount of lines in every paragraph. So this is like his prayer. He would just give them to us, and he would just type in. This he's sharing. It's like water boiling over. This is what boils over, the water that falls. So that, fullness he had. So that is way. So after he saw me sitting on the step, November 28th, walking around the corner, and I'm sitting there, and little snow was coming down. He wrote pages and pages how he let that man sit on the step until 6 o'clock.
Which year was that?
71.
71.
So I came and I walked in and I sat down and I said, he was sitting on the wall. So I said, are you the teacher here? And he said, no. I said, who's the teacher? And he pointed to Bhagavan. He said, that old man, he's the teacher, that old man there. I said, well, what do you do here then? He said, well, you see that door? I said, yeah. You see that doormat? I said, yeah. He said, that's me. I'm the doorman and the doormat of Bhagavan's home here. So that was, 1971. So already I was, studying Bhagavan's teachings and practicing. So here's another group. There's the Bhagavat. He dressed very sloppily, but now and then we would buy him a suit, and he put this on. He's just coming back from India or something, or going. I can't remember. So this is Dennis and Bhaskar, and this is Matthew Greenblatt and John Greenblatt. You know met him, right?
Yes.
There's Yogamaya, and there's Paul, there's Margot.
Margot?
Margot, yes. Yeah. So she came in 1974, first to the ashram.
Dennis, Evelyn, Arthur, and Margot, they all came when
Yeah.
the ashram was.
Well, I'll tell you, I came in 1971. Evelyn came same year, but before me, some months before me. And Joan and Matthew came the same year also, 1971, but maybe in the summer or so. So we all came around the same time. But Margot came in 1974. Oh, it was 73, in 73, in like August 73 or something. We weren't there, we were in India at that time.
Which one is Matthew?
Matthew's the one sitting on the end with the checkered shirt, standing.
On the left.
So here's a group, in the ashram. There's Mr. Parikh and Mrs. Parikh. This must be around 1980, 85, because Banduji is here, but he's otherwise known as Virat at that time.
And reading, by the way, reading.
There. He's there reading
Oh,
something.
that's it.
No, that's a chant sheet, and we're chanting something. That's a chant sheet. So,
Where's Bandhu?
he's right here, the bearded guy. There's Mr. Parikh, Mrs. Parikh here. And there's, I think Bhavana's here also. There's Bhavana singing,
Bhavana
her daughter,
singing.
who brought her here from Orlando. I don't know if you saw it. And there's Olivia.
1980.
Yeah, this is 85.
This is the same place.
This is the same place. So that's sort of a jump in time frame. This is around this is 1975. This is some saint from Calcutta. Prasad Brahmachari. Probably no one has ever heard of him. But this lady brought him here for a month, and he used to come to the ashram every night. He's very ecstatic type, like a Ramakrishna type. He would dance in ecstasy. So around this time, and when I came in 1971, Joan and Matthew, this is Joan and Matthew, they had already gone up in September, a few months before I came. And Bhakta Bhagavat always wanted to have a country ashram where people on Wall Street can go and sit on the grass. And so, but he was looking around New York City. He wasn't a practical person for raising money or having some campaign or anything like that. So there was some devotee who was in Halifax, came down and said, oh, you can come to Nova Scotia. You can, what you pay hundreds of thousands for here, you can buy for $15,000 there. So they went up there. David Sewell was his name. He was a professor, or he's teaching in an art college in Halifax. So they went up there on that lead, and they looked around and they found a place. Although they found it and they told them they're going to buy it, but we didn't buy it until the next spring in April. But we came and, well, after I came, we went up and looked at it with Bhagavat and Joan and Matthew. And so this is the announcement of that Arunachala Ashrama in Canada and the mountain path. Ramana Maharshi Center, incorporated in Bridgetown, Nova Scotia, Canada, is fast taking shape and growing according to a report received by the editor. The center is to propagate Sri Bhagavan's teachings and practice meditation and chants morning and evening. A batch of dedicated devotees there are busy fixing a house and grounds for this country ashram that will be open to all sincere seekers in search of the self. According to the report, the ashram location is amidst picturesque surroundings and meadows, streams, brooks, and springs, flanked by the Nova Scotia mountains reminiscent of Arunachala. We wish the ashram all success. May Sri Bhagavan shower his gracious blessing on all that dedicate themselves to this cause.
Dennis, what year was this?
What?
What year was this?
This was 1972. So this is the 1972 issue of the Mountain Path. So it was, we went up there in April 1972. Me, John, and Matthew. And then it was inaugurated on September 1st, 1972. So that's what the house looked like. I don't know if some of you have been there. That was the house when we first came. And so kind of desolate looking. The previous owner said, I don't paint the house because they'll put my property taxes up. But it was 100 acres and went up to the top of the mountain, 130 acres. And, you know, we're young people. I don't know if any of you have that experience. I was young, very also caught up in Bhagavan's teaching, idealism. Bhagavat was very idealistic and always talked about total dedication and devotion. And I was ready for that. You know, I don't know if any of you had that experience that you won't dedicate yourself to one thing and one thing only. Ready to give your life for that and make that the only meaning and purpose in your life. This was a perfect place, you know, for us to do that. And we have young, a lot of energy. You always said hard work and labor. So here we're painting it. I think this picture was also in the mountain path later on. Here's these two fellows on the right. They're from Florida. In fact, they came up to see the ashram there. And this is probably 1973. And they came down for a short while. They had an ashram. They even had a cow like we had a cow. And I think more towards Miami side. So there's Bhakta Bhagavat. You can see the mountain behind there. There's Lakshmi, our cow, looking at me. She was our neighbor's cow, and he knew we wanted a cow. He said, take Nancy. You can milk her and keep the milk and just take her. You have lots of grass on your field and everything. So we took Nancy and rechristened her Lakshmi. And she was a little nervous cow, you know, a little different temperament than our real Lakshmi. Totally harmless though, very timid. And I walk in the field sometime, and she would run at you to play, and then someone's walking with me in the field, and she's running directly at you. And you see those horns, and she's going like this. And I tell the person, get behind me. I would just stand there, because I know Lakshmi would never touch me. This is just all her play, you know? And they were so impressed. But she was a beautiful person, I'm going to say. I had her for 10 years, and this is Saraswati. Now what happened, Lakshmi's firstborn died. And another neighbor of ours, we called him to help because it was dying. It was maybe a few weeks old. And he came over, he couldn't save it, and then he took us over to his farm and said, pick one of his calves, pick one. So that's when we picked, and that's Saraswati. She had a beautiful temperament. Later, someone gave us a horse, and the horse was in love with Lakshmi. Because they attached themselves to some other animal. I don't know if he had animals. But Lakshmi was terrified of the horse. So there was quite a drama every day with Lakshmi. And so the horse would run after Saraswati, run up to Saraswati real quick, and Saraswati would move and just look and lick the horse. The horse ran away. But Lakshmi go running here and there, running in the woods, hiding. But she had a bell on her, and she'd be hiding in the woods. And the bell is going ding. She's showing her cud, and she's going ding, 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 ding. And the horse is running wild all over trying to find.
What is the horse's name, Dennis?
King. I didn't change his name. And so there's Lakshmi and Saraswati. That's Joan. That's me. This is the simple life. I mean, if the more you simplify your life, the easier everything becomes. And well, like Bhagavan saying, no wants is the greatest happiness. So the more you bring yourself to that point and simplify your life, not continually adding things on, but removing things, and make life simple and easy, life can be beautiful. So we had to see all that hay, I had to throw up in that wagon and throw in the barn to feed them during the winter time. There's my mother and King. Yeah. He was a harness racehorse, King. And the person who gave us that I should exercise it regularly. So I got it, and I had the reins from my neighbor. In fact, he brought everything over. He got me the horse, the one who gave us the cow. I put the reins on it, and I jumped on King. I said, okay, I'm going to exercise. But no one has ever rid him before. I didn't know that. So for 5 minutes, he tried to throw me off. And it was wild. Like, I stayed on, and then he calmed down. I said, wow, I want to join the rodeo. You know what that thrill is. You don't know unless you get into it. But he was calm after that.
Is that neighbor still around?
Oh, Mr. Kano was a beautiful man. Bhagavat used to call him Mahatma Kano. He had so much respect for the ashram. When you go away, he'd cut the lawn, he'd look after everything ashram. When he comes in the house, he'd take off his hat. He called the chapel. And we're young people, and there's a lot of hippies moving in there, migrating up from the United States. To get away, and they living around Nova Scotia. And everybody used to say, oh, you got some hippies living next to you. He said, hippies, get in my truck, I'm going to take you down there and meet them. Mr. Kano was a beautiful person.
Where was he in relation to them?
Okay, if I'm facing the house, on the right side. His son lives in that house now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Jim knew him very well, right? Jim knew Mr. Kano very well. Jim came up every summer, since I moved up there. So there's a picture. There's Matthew, me, Joan, Bhagavat, and Yogamaya. This is Savitri Krishnan. She was a beautiful person. Rabindranath Tagore used to write songs for her to sing. She was an orphan in Chennai. Her and her sister was trained at singing. And she wasn't trained, but she would accompany her singing, just because they're young girls. So Rabindranath Tagore visited the Theosophical Society, and they wanted to entertain him, so they brought her sister to sing for him. And she also joined, so they sang together. And after they sang, Rabindranath Tagore went up to her and told other people, her uncle said, she's an orphan, I'd like to take her, I like her singing. She'd be good for Shantiniketan, which was just a school, an outdoor school at that time. And they said, okay, you ask her if she consents, you can take her. So he went and asked her, and she looked at him, big old man with a beard, all gray, and she said, would you like to come with me? He said, no. Which was considered a great honor, but she didn't realize it. And he said, why not? She said, I want to go to school. I said, why? So I can go to college. Why? So I can get a job. He said, why? So I can make some money. Why? So I can buy nice saris. He said, okay, I'm going to give you nice saris. Come with me. So she was honored all over India for the songs he wrote for her and her singing and everything. She died in the late 80s. You know, beautiful woman. She used to spend a lot of time in the Nova Scotia Ashram. Her daughter, she had a daughter who lived in Halifax. So pilgrimage to the holy hill of the beacon light. I'm going to miss the time.
Just keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Keep going.
Okay, this is when we all went together as a group in 1973. All the ashram people. So here you can see the banner. We're walking around the hill. There's Swami Vishwanathan. There's Dennis the Menace. There's Evelyn. There's Joan. There's Bhakta Bhagavat. I forget who this other lady is. Do you recognize her? Anand? So we're doing Giri Pradhan. Swami Vishwanathan was a wonderful person there at the time. He used to take interest in people, and he would take them around the hill, show them all the places related with Bhagavan. So when we were there, Anand's grandfather, Sri T.N. Venkataraman, presented us with 2 photographs, and one of Bhagavan reclining. There's one Sayadas. I don't know, do you remember Sayadas? He used to color the pictures when there was no color pictures, the black and white pictures. So he colored 2 pictures, one of Arunachala and one of that, and gave us on that visit.
Dennis, is that the picture in our ashram?
Yeah, Nova Scotia, on the altar.
Oh.
The 2 pictures, Arunachala, they've been there since 1960.
Oh, this one.
Bhagavat.
Bhagavat. Yes.
Yeah.
Bhagavat. So here's a group photo. Somehow I was away, even Bhakta Bhagavat's not here, I don't remember. But there's Evelyn, that little girl, and that's Matthew and Joan. But you can see Swami Vishwanathan, the President Venkataraman, Satyananda Swami, Jagadish Swami, many of the old devotees. There's Kanditation, there's Yugo Meyer there even. You know. A lot of, they used to do that up to that time. When some pilgrims would come on some occasion, they would have group photographs. During Bhagavan's time, many, you must have seen them all. So they continued doing that for another 25 years or so. So we just made the cut, I think, with those group pictures. Oh, there's Raja Iyer, postmaster. These are people we've seen. This is S.S. Cohen. In fact, this is a little later.
Which year?
That's Kanan, yeah. He passed away last year. Kanan, every time I go there, I see him and talk, spend some time with him. He took care of a lot of old devotees. He has a whole history, Kanan. Very lucky soul. So this is the Cohen. He was in a wheelchair, and he was very jovial, even then. I said, Mr. Cohen, where are you going? He looks back at Kanan and he goes, wherever this monkey takes me. He was very jovial. He asked Bhagavat, how do you run the ashram in America? And Bhagavat says, oh, the old man takes care of it. He thought a minute, he goes, old, Bhagavat's not old. He's not a man either. So here's Ramaswamy Pillai, who lived into the mid-90s or so, 100 years old. There's a wonderful story about him living to be 100. When I was there, he was 93, and Mani asked me to take him for a walk. And because he's sitting all the time in his chair, drinking tea, that's all, he would sit, no exercise, and he's forgetting how to walk. So I get him up, and we go out of his room, where he's staying in that corner room, go sit on the ledge over there, and he look up the mountain, Arunachala, 100 years. Bhagavan would keep me 100 years. I said, and he was hard of hearing. So I said, Swami, you're only 95. And then he looked at me and goes, 100 years. Bhagavan would keep me here 100 years. And I said again, Swami, you're 95. And he said, 100 years. And he lived to be 100. There's Swami Vishwanathan. He was a great soul. Anyone who met him had to be impressed. Even everyone, he was quiet, well established in Bhagavan. This is Surinagama. This is in the 80s, early 80s. In 1977, when I met her in Bombay, she was staying at her nephew's, I think, and she had cancer. In fact, she had cancer in her left arm, like Bhagavan. And all the doctors tried some treatment. And they said, no, I don't think we can do anything. And she was suffering a lot. And she wrote this poem, which I recorded. She wrote about this in the book, Letters from, you'll see, in Letters and Recollection. And she recorded that poem and said, Bhagavan, whenever you were, this is the gist of the poem, whenever you're offered anything, you would distribute it to all the devotees. And when you had your cancer and your sarcoma tumor, we asked you, please distribute to us. And now that you have given it to me, please give me the strength to withstand the pain and the suffering. But ironically, there was one Venkataraman. He was the controller of the Navy finances, a big officer. He was a part-time homeopath. And he asked her when I was there, can I treat you? She said, okay. He was a devotee of Bhagavan. And he treated her, cured her.
Oh,
Isn't that something?
wow.
And then she lived like another 6-7 years.
There was another story.
I'm telling only stories. Here's story in the Gama, up on Kana's roof. You know, I see Kana. Now, all of us have done Giri Pradakshina, I imagine most of us here. So this is on the Giri Production Road. Here's Bhakta Bhagavat, Gunja Swami Kane Station. Have a look. Dirt road, no buildings. In the 70s it was like that. No people. No, this is around the mountain, on the other side of the mountain. What's that? So this is Sri Arunachala Ramana Mandiram, Arunachala Ashram, Nova Scotia. Bhagavat always wanted to build temples. Anybody read it, right? He always dreamed of building a temple on 5th Avenue in New York, but that's considered the most important place in America. And that's where he's going to raise Bhagavan's flag. So, who knows? It may happen. So, this is when we built a temple there in Nova Scotia. And Bhagavat came up, the Arunachala Ramana Mandiram. So, in 1974, after that trip, we came back and we had the Advent at Arunachala. Bhagavat was always big on Advent at Arunachala programs. Because that's when Bhagavan arrived at Arunachala. That's when Arunachala gave himself to the world. And we're all benefiting from that. So he was always keen. And even the president told me we weren't celebrating that. And we used to send reports every year, and then they started celebrating also. But in 1946, the 50th anniversary, they did a big way. But so this we had in the barn. You can't see this white wall is the barn wall. The altar is there. We have the Advent and Arunachala. We have every year, even till now, since 1972 till now. We have on September 1st the Advent program. That's the only main program we have in Nova Scotia, Ashram, and we have it always on the Sunday before Labor Day. So this is in the barn. We set up a beautiful altar. You can't see it. We have lots of vegetables around the shrine and everything. This is the, in the barn. Same group. But there's Darlene. Yeah. She came by that time. In 1974, she started coming to the ashram in Nova Scotia. Beautiful person. So this is a group. This is the Mr. Who was that one? Mr. Raju from Andhra Pradesh.
Sorry, where are you pointing?
Okay, yeah, I got it here, right? This is Mr. Raju. So he saw we had in the barn that time. He said, we should have a temple here or something. So he said, we should build something here or do something here. Not to have it in the barn. I thought the barn was beautiful, to be honest with you. But so then someone helped a little bit, and we bought this building. Now this is the schoolhouse, Clarence West Schoolhouse, and this is where it's located. This is the Clarence West Schoolhouse sitting where it is now. If you've been to Nova Scotia,
Yeah.
that's the temple.
Okay.
But that's the temple like 5 years before we came to Nova Scotia in 1972. And during that 5 years, it was moved 1 mile or 1 kilometer down the road before we got there.
Okay.
Behind where Darlene lives, someone's going to develop a ski slope.
It
So
will
they
be-
bought this for a utility building, moved it down the road. So we had the bright light. This is it sitting up on the hill behind Darlene's house. So we had the bright idea, we're gonna bring it back and have higher education in the schoolhouse.
Dennis, is that how Darlene came to be associated with the
No,
ashram?
even before that she started coming.
She just happened to.
Oh, there's a long story there.
Wow.
There's a long story.
Tell us.
For next year.
No, let's go on.
But she, after this, she got very involved. But she was even coming to the ashram before, you know, for meditating and everything. So this is the building coming down the road, coming in front of the ashram house. Coming to, we put a foundation in first, and then we jacked it up, slid it over, and dropped it down. So they don't do that much. You can see Matthew here and Dennis here, and these are some people we hired. And there's the Clarence West Schoolhouse. This is the girls' entrance, and that's the boys' entrance. Just like India, right? Or girls' school. There's the same building, you know, we're coming along now. There's Savitri, Krishnan, and Joan. This is very exciting for us young devotees. Here we're building a place, a home for Bhagavan's devotees. We felt, you know, very much immersed in this. This was all-consuming. You know, there's one of the yamas and niyamas, one is santosha, contentment, and contentment is a requirement, you know, to doing sadhana. And we had great contentment, great satisfaction. So here we're bringing the pictures from the house. We had the shrine in the house. We're bringing it to the temple. And this is the complete, we put an entrance room into the front of it. And here it is, there's a big announcement. This is the top of it, not the text. So, inauguration of Arunachala Ramana Mandiram in the Western Hemisphere. Not in Canada, the Western Hemisphere. A 4-day festival. You know. So there's Dennis, Margot, Joan, Darlene, Evelyn, Arunachala Bhagavat.
You were the Western sons and daughters, Dennis.
Yeah.
Western sons and daughters. He wrote that so often.
These are our two Purohits, or priests. They're both oceanographer, PhDs, and one taught university. This is Super Rao. He's in Tampa. Now he's in Tampa, and I wrote him, come on, you can see, I'm going to have your picture up here. He moved to Tampa from Canada. I don't know why. But he's in Tampa now, but he's in India, so he couldn't come. And this is Dr. Lakshminarayan, very devoted. He was in New Brunswick, used to come regularly. So they did all the pujas. In fact, Suvarao designed that altar and everything. You see there's a miniature design of that altar there. Now this is the group photo. There's same people. There's Paul, there's Dennis, there's Lakshminarayan, there's Suvarao. This is Evelyn, another woman from New York. There's Evelyn, Margot. That's Darlene, Margot, Evelyn, Joan. And the families of our two priests. Now this I'm just showing it. Joan will probably be upset if I do. Darlene will be upset if I do. Now that's a beautiful picture, isn't it? See that openness and that happiness? Now here I'm going to jump 45 years. Same smile, same joy, same person. What a wonderful person. She tells me now she wants to build a cottage alongside the temple so when she gets older she can get a golf course cart, electric, and she can go around to all the buildings and do maintenance. Like she's taking care of all the devotees there very selflessly. Anyone comes, she'll cook for them, set them up. She lives just down the road.
Do their laundry.
Do everything.
Clean everything.
Terry knows he goes in the winter there for a month. Anyone that goes there, the recipient. So she's the Sarvati Terry with great joy there. So here's a picture of the temple at night. So, Sri Arunachala Ramana Mandiram. And you can feel like you feel the New York ashram, you feel the presence, the peace, and the shrine there. It's a beautiful place. Over the years, so much prayer. So we have a statue like we do in New York, replica of the one made in India. The Sri Chakra, the Ramana Ashram sent there in 1976. We had that installed. There's our president, Sundaram. 1977, I remember, he came up. And we brought it here, we went to Washington, we went all around. Here He was very happy, look at. We even haven't gave a talk, he came for the September 1st function.
Is that Arthur next to Darlene?
That's Arthur Kukovitis. That's Jim Grant, I don't know if you ever met him.
Yes, Jim Grant.
You met him? Yeah.
Yes, he was in Tirunelveli.
Yeah, he came there. We bought a ticket for him, you know, and sent him to there. But, and there's Evelyn. This is the, I don't know, Robin Legman, Durga Legman, they named her son Ramana. You met them? He's not here, I don't know where Robin is, somewhere around, but he financed that pictorial biography, the first edition.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's Bhagavat next to you?
Right. Yeah. So here's just a function, you know, one of the September 1st functions in the shrine. We and we feed the people outside in the countryside, and they can sit on the grass and go work in Wall Street. So Arunachala Bhagavat in Sri Arunachala Ramana Mandiram. There's a little video of Bhakta Bhagavat here. He's just going to explain. We took a video, and when he was 89, Jim took this. He was 76 years old.
But here the place is for practice, because we always say, in a humorous way, AAA, as American Automobile Association, we say Arunachala Ashram, Arunachala Abhyas Ashram. Whoever comes, Indians or Americans, I say this is Abhyasam for practice. You cannot learn, you have to learn ABCD, elementary and junior high, senior, university, all. No one can become a doctor just by looking at medical college. The person has to go through the grind. So we use the term grind, G-R-I-N-D. We have nothing can be grown in a field unless we plow the field. So same way, this is like a beacon light. Whoever they were, in the name of God, think of me. Shri Bhagavan says, Tasmat sarvesu kalesu mam nusmar juddhyascha. When thus remembering me all the time, fight on whatever work you have to do. Since creation has been brought into, different people have different jobs, different missions. They have to do or keep on doing, but remembering me little. I always say, do you have 5 minutes, sir? Do you have 5 minutes, Deviji? Do you have 5 minutes, madam? What? Early in the morning, sit down for 5 minutes. Don't do anything in a chair, anything. Don't, but just 5 minutes in a peace and quiet. Whoever comes, even here in the temple, we sit, we recite, we talk, little read, but the most important thing is the practice, what we do, as we say. As we always say, so nahi jai dev. Only he knows, she knows you, on whom you grant your grace and mercy. People can ask, why? I don't feel it. I say, do you have eyes? Can you see the sun? Can you breathe? Who will make you? You have to breathe that. Same way you have to experience, feel. And that is, whether you believe or not, but you believe in the sun, you believe in the wind, you believe in the river, you believe in the trees, you believe in the grass, all those things. So little attention, that is say, tasmat sarvesu kalesu mamanusmar juddhacha. Therefore, hence, remembering me all time, just fight on, work on, keep on doing. Without that, nothing. In India, they always say, ko comes first, then ko. Ko means karna, to do. Ko means khana, to eat. First you eat. As someone offers the food in front, and that hand will have to move. So certain person, certain work, that is necessary.
So this is the ashram now. That's Uncle Red, called a truck, or from Big Red, and that's the guest house. And I'm going to quickly show a few pictures of the ashram here.
No rushing. No rushing.
Well, I'm over time. Okay, there's a barn, there's a cottage there. That white cottage is where Terry and Ruth stay when they come in the winter. There's last year's garden. We plant every year a garden there, vegetable garden.
You still grow tobacco?
I didn't grow tobacco, but I let some neighbors, some friends from Lebanon who came there. Some refugees stayed in the ashram for a while, and I let them grow tobacco because he couldn't. He made his own cigarettes. And that's the cottage there. That's a cabin there. And there's Malini. We're sitting there. No, Malini, where is she? Oh yeah. From here we walk up to we have a Skanda Ashram, that's Skanda Ashram. Then we have a Virupaksha cave, a little higher up the hill. Rather than lower, we have it higher. So I think Malini and Sangeeta are sitting there last summer. Or didn't go, okay, here's some people that someone Aparna knows. Look at, there's your father.
Oh, yes.
There's
Oh,
Varsha.
that's
There's Devaratra, the guy with the beard.
Huh?
Doesn't he remind you of Devaratra?
Yeah, that's awesome. Almost like that.
You seen Devaratra with Bhagavat? With Bhagavan?
It's you?
From Nepal? So that's, from here we go up to the mount of the cave from there. There's on top of the mountain. This is just, not this summer, the previous summer. Jayanti's been coming in the last 2 years, and there's Asha, her son, and some 8-year-old boy, I don't know his name. Where is he? So there's a view looking down at the ashram. This is the ashram property. We're looking down. You see that little white peak there? That's the temple, but the buildings are on this side of the temple. You can't really see them. That's the Annapolis Valley. It runs for about 50 miles east and west. And where we're standing, if we keep walking over the mountain, you go down to the Bay of Fundy, which has the highest tides in the world. So just another view. So around 1999, for 10 or 11 years, they would have children's ashram program there. And these are some of the kids from the children's ashram program. I thought I should show that. And they learn, some of Bhagavan's works. They put on a play about Bhagavan's life also. They get a certain incident that happened and they play it out. And it's very fixed schedule for them. They do seva on the ashram, but they do go canoeing and they do horse riding, and they had a nice time. That went for like 10 or 11 years. So this is what I wanted to put on Sangeeta Swaminathan's next music album. That's her standing in front of the Bay of Fundy. That's over the mountain. Leela's seen it, right?
Yes.
That's sunset. And there's also, Nova Scotia is very unspoiled. And you can go, there's remote lakes with beaches and things like this. You can, a very natural, unspoiled place. So pilgrimages and productions. So this is T. N. Venkataraman. So this, in 1970, Bhagavat always wanted to have a nice pictorial biography of Bhagavan. And the only one previous to that was the Kamath in 1939. I have a copy of it with me. I left in Malini in your car, 1939 edition. I have a bag in your car still with something.
Yeah, she has it here.
We were wondering where the...
Yeah, that's my stuff. I forgot to bring it out.
Okay. It's in the...
And so we have Kamath with 111 illustrations, so Bhakta Bhagavat wanted. So then the ashram sent Jonah and Matthew to work on that for a year or two. And they had a good time doing that. Then in 1987, I collected Bhagavat's writings. I thought before he dies I should do something because he's not going to publish anything himself. So I collected a bunch of his writings in Delhi and had that printed when I was there. And then in 1989 when we were there, come in. Yeah. You can't see.
I can see.
No, you can't.
Okay.
So in 1989 when I was there, the president, Ganeshan, Mani, all came and said, take all the movies back to the U.S. and have them, see if we can have them restored there. So they gave us all the movies and we put them back. It took a couple of years. We got a professional company to do, and we put them in chronological order. Of course, we could. I could tell the order by watching his father's height walking along his father. He's growing tall, and he's always walking his father. So I could tell the order of the... Yeah, so then after that we made this Sage of Arunachala video and this Guru Ramana video with the Sage of Arunachala also you know, Bhagavat's very keen, we should have a video on the life and documentary of Bhagavat. So we had a wonderful time. We went to his birthplace, videotaped every section the route he took. We had P.V. Somasundaram with us. And then all around the ashram, and we had this narrator. He was a professional. For the Discovery Channel, the National Geographic, he used to do narrations. He came to Tiruvannamalai. He's a devotee. He wanted to learn how to pronounce the words. So he came to the ashram. Ramana was helping him pronounce the words. He died in 1996. But you know, this video, Sage of Arunachala, was translated probably in a dozen different languages around the world. And a lot of people seen it over the years. It's 25 years now since we published that. And then the Guru, some years later, we got all the interviews. We had tried to interview all the old devotees that were around the ashram at that time. We went and saw Professor K. Swaminathan. We went to his house. I think the day before you were married. Right? You were married in December?
November 10th.
November 10th?
26th.
20th. Okay. We went there, and then we happened to be there when we went to your wedding. So we went to his house, interviewed him then. And then we have Kunja Swami, beautiful one with Kunja Swami and Ramaswami Pillai, Professor Swaminathan, Annamalai Swami, and then Rajan T. and Venkataraman. He introduces it. And Professor Krishnamurti Iyer, Balaram Reddy, Sampurnama, Ramani Amal from Rajapalayam, and Kanakama and Krishna Swami. And that's also, I get great inspiration from that video. And there's our videographer. That's Jim. On the mountain. I told you with the football, I handed to the line, running back. I handed to the running back, and I just sit back and try to get crashes to the line.
It's all because of the line on your tongue, Jim.
So also that year, in 1989, we made a replica of, the ashram kindly allowed us to make a replica. So you see all those lines on it, they're all wax lines. And then we made molds over 33 different pieces, 33 different molds. We took them up on the roof to dry, and then we took off all the lines. But I was there last year, and I was in there with Dr. Murthy, he was cleaning it, and I was feeling under the right arm of Bhagavat, and there's one line there. There's one line still there. I said, Dr. Murthy, there's a line here from 25 years ago. And I said, it's wax, when we use that wax to make the mold. I said, should I remove it? He said, no. You know, historically minded. I don't know, it's probably still there, you know. He thought now it's part of the history of that statue. So here you can see, this looks, you know, very blasphemous, but Bhagavan's face is covered with the mold there. There he is. And just to make sure they let everybody know that I also helped them a little bit. I was just going to put that picture only, but then I did that. So it took him 7 years to put it together, and piece by piece, and sanded, and this is at his house, Jim's house, in Franklin, New York. And then, you know, I came for one day and sanded. So that's now the statue. There's a beautiful picture. David took this picture. I like it. See this? Wow. Let's see how it brings out the feature so much, this picture. You don't, even in Ramana Ashram, it's too glary, but this brings out the feature. Jim says it's a wonderful sculpture. You know, when they made this sculpture, although they fashioned Bhagavan at a much earlier picture, the same picture that's in Madurai at the Ramana Kendram, that was the most popular picture at that time, until the wedding pictures came. It's a full body picture of Bhagavan. So they fashioned him after that picture when they did this sculpture. But they took the measurements with instruments. They measured the size of his head, his ears, the length of his arms, his fingers, so everything's very identical in this. There's another statue there, but they didn't have the opportunity to do what this previous, that Stapati did, Vedyanathan Stapati. So it's a beautiful statue. So this is, I don't know why exactly I put that picture, so. This is now Arunachala Yatra, Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, 100th Advent and Arunachala anniversary. Now, August 29th to 19th. Sorry. Now, since we've been celebrating the Advent all these years, and I don't know why, in the summer, we're sitting in the and maybe it was in April or May, sitting in the shrine there in Nova Scotia. All of a sudden, well, we've heard like Bhagavan saying, what are you sitting here? It's my 100th anniversary. Our arrival, Arunachala, go and follow me. You know, that's what Jesus said, you're following. So I wrote to the president, we sent some money, and yet your father, you know, he just took over as president in '94. So he said, well, maybe they want to do something. I said, like, this is, I think, when he realized that Bhagavan's doing everything there. Because everyone wanted to do this, and everything, this came this, and he was just sitting watching how everything's getting done. And he said, okay, you want to do that, okay. So it became such a massive celebration. Were you there?
No.
Oh. And that September 1st. So we followed the same route Bhagavan took, and there was about, what, 70 or 80 of us. And the Ramana Kendra in Madurai, that's Wesley Soma, they arranged so many things to make it so easy. You know, but we slept where Bhagavan slept, we walked where Bhagavan walked, you know, and took the same route, but we had everything that Bhagavan didn't have. Meals on time. When we arrived in Mamala Pattu, we had to walk to Tirukoiler. Because of, what's his name, Krishna, no,
Krishna Bhagavat.
no, who was the head of the South Indian Railway? Krishna Murthy, or Krishna Swami? That's the South Indian Railway. Aparna is his wife. What's his name? Krishnamurti. So he was an officer, a big officer then, the South Indian Railway. So he arranged everything for us. So when we arrived in Mambala Pattu, where Bhagavan had no more money to continue, he had to walk, there was another car sitting there just full of water so we could take a bath. A whole, you know, train car full of water for our bath. It was early in the morning. But we all walked, it was beautiful. It was like 17 kilometers along the railway. We walked to Tirukoiler and Bhagavan saw the tower of the Arunachala temple. He saw that. And here we're taking the train. Here in Tirukoiler at the house where the Bhagavatar, you know, his earrings he gave, and it actually was his sister who fed him on Krishna Jayanti day. And we tried to find out about the earrings. Wouldn't it be nice to find those earrings? But the point is that we never realized that Bhagavatar didn't keep the earrings. He took it to a pawnbroker, got a chit and some money. So he can come back and claim it like pawnbrokers do, and nobody ever comes back. That's how they make their money. So that's what happened. But even they try to locate, like the drummer boy who gave his food to Bhagavan. We tried to locate that family, and we find in the lineage of that family, he's still a drummer, and some young man, and we also gave him some honors and things like that. We had a wonderful program because of this Somasundaram. He even did a dry run and Krishna Murthy, right? And you see Somasundaram here. Here.
The last one.
They did all these.
No, that's one.
Soma, they call it Soma Madurai. And you can see Eric Ford back there. Oh, this isn't showing everything.
No, he was recollecting this time when we were in Madurai, Somasundar.
Yeah, because since then they've been doing it every year.
Yeah.
Since 1996 they do the same
No,
thing.
he was saying you guys were up and ready to leave from that place wherever in Tirukoiler. The local devotees were not ready, so he was pushing everybody to start, let's go, they are already ready.
Oh. But everyone you can see, okay, this is that one. But this one I'm gonna go back a little bit. I want to show you this group. So here, Jim, as usual, took this picture, and he ran and sat there. And there's Eric, and there's Devarata. There's one, he's a doctor in Nova Scotia. We had a good contingent. Anil Sharma got married that year, and there he is. This is his honeymoon, him and his wife right there.
Is that Janet next to Vijay?
Janet's there. Yeah, Janet, where are you? Oh.
Right next to Vijay.
Yeah, that's Janet.
Oh my goodness.
There's a Sabi Khanna, you know. And this is Reena Khanna's daughter-in-law, you know.
The two sisters.
And you're
Yeah.
Ranjani and
The two
Maitri.
sisters from Bangalore.
There's some, what?
The two sisters.
Yeah, Maitri and,
Ranjani.
right there. So a lot of them. He's from Boston, this Bala. So they all remember that with, you know, great happiness, all these devotees. So this is all going,
Should have a whole
We-
video on Jim's work.
What's that?
You have a whole video on Jim's work.
Yeah, we gotta, get the National Public Radio. He was already on NPR. Not radio, television. Yeah. All right, now, I don't know how we're jumping there so soon. Okay. I don't think, yeah, so did I show pictures of Klein Street?
No.
Not a single one.
What happened? Okay, anyhow, we don't have time.
Oh, you have time. We have time.
Yes.
Until 5
We
o'clock.
have.
I don't know what happened to the Yellowstone pictures. I somehow skipped over those. We had another location from 342 East 6th Street. We moved to Queens because they put the rent from $400 a month to $2,000. So then we realized we could rent a house in Queens for an ashram for like $1,300. So we did that. And then we bought a house in 1996. I can tell you on my personal life how there's only one source, there's only one religion, there's only one purpose and meaning in life. And this goes back to the Immaculate Conception of Mary. This is a church right across the street from the ashram in New York. And so we're looking for another location. I don't know, I had all these pictures. We were renting a hall in the Lakshmi Hall in the Ganesh Temple because we didn't have enough room in the Klein Street. Excuse me. So then we're looking for another location. We had the resources to do it. We could take a loan. And so one day I was talking with Hilda Kapoor on the phone. We have time for this?
Yes.
And
Is she living in California then?
yeah, she was living. Did you meet her?
I heard.
You met her? Yeah. So she went through a very difficult time. She's a Parsi, and she married outside of her community. And when she did that, she was ostracized from her community. And not only that, her Bengali husband left after her children were born. So she had to work on her own. She was a pilot. She worked in an airline as a hostess and everything. She saw Bhagavan left before he died. Oh, thank you. So I had met her. She hadn't gone to Ramana Ashram for 25 years. So after that 25 years, I met her at Ramana Ashram and kept in touch with her. So she moved to California for some time and stayed near her daughter's house. And so we would talk now and then. So she always telling about her difficult times. I don't know if you met her, but she said when I had no money to send my children to school. I didn't want to send them to public school. I was working and I was really in dire straits, and I didn't know what to do. And there was a church dedicated to Mother Mary next to my apartment, and I would go there, and I would just pray and weep to Mother Mary, help me. And whenever she did that, she said it would work. And I don't know why, why, we know why, but so I said, no, she said, I don't know if you believe in all this, this is Christian. I said, yes, I believe, I'm a Roman Catholic. And I'm telling you, I was just thinking this after many years. I was born on the feast of the Mother Mary. I didn't have to go to school, because I went to a Catholic school. I was off school on the feast of the Immaculate Conception. So I'm talking about this, and I said, the first time I ever prayed for anything was to the Mother Mary. And I was at a bazaar, and you get a ticket when you come in the bazaar, and they have numbers on them, and they call, it's like a door prize ticket. So and I loved animals. I had turtles and snakes and whatever I could collect, rabbits, whatever I could collect. So they were going to give away a live lamb. I said, oh my God, a live lamb. Now I have something to pray for. So I had the ticket in my hand, and I'm just a boy, and I'm closing my eyes praying to Mary. I said, I want this lamb, please. And so they call the number, and I look at my number. It's not. So what a hoax. So then I'm thinking that I was really, down. I said, I believed, really, I believed. I had faith. And didn't happen. And I thought he'd do it with all sincerity. Then they called my number as a consolation prize. And that was a picture with a big flower bouquet on it. Picture. And I took it and gave it to my mother, of course. But only then, years later, after talking with Hill, I realized that lamb, they weren't going to give it to me. They're going to butcher and give it to me for Easter. So actually, she did have kripa or grace on me. She did hear my prayer, and she didn't want to devastate me, because what happened. So I'm telling her the story. Yes, I believe in the Mother Mary. So the same day, there's some ad in the newspaper, and in these home finder, leaflets you see around. Because these real estate agents are calling me and saying, this place is for sale, that place is for sale. I would go, I said, let me look first, I don't want to see it. So I go look, and even by bicycle, I go all over Queens looking. And so we saw this place, I said, well, let's go have a look at it. And so we went to see this place, and this place, and I'm walking around the building here, and I see over there, across the street, a church. I said, what's that church? It's the Church of the Immaculate Conception, my birthday. And after decades, I'm talking about her with Hilda. This Bhagavan's telling me this is the place, isn't it? How clear, So I said so we went inside, and I made an offer. And she didn't take it. But I was so sure, I said, I'm just going to wait. That's the ashram. I know it. Bhagavan told us. So I waited 2 or 3 months. No one else made a higher offer, and she wouldn't sell it. And I would often go there and tell Mary what's going on. So then I talked with the real estate agent and said, well, I went through this before with her. If you don't give over this amount, she's not going to take it. She's not going to go. She's going to drop it again and wait. So I did. I gave just over that amount. She took it, and the ashram moved there. So that was in 2005. So here's a picture outside soon. There's, I don't see Anand, but I see his wife there.
Oh, there's Shanta.
There's Shanta. There's Shobana. There's Hema. There's Bandhu's mother, Margot. There's Janet. There's Mohan Maharaj, and Dinesh, and Veganathan, and Raksha.
There's Ravi in the
There's Jackie.
Ravi.
Ravi is there.
Oh, that's Prashant, I think.
That's Prashant.
That's
There's
Prashant.
There's Prashant. There's Savitri. Prashant and Jackie.
Oh, really?
So that's, I think this was taken around the year we bought it. So then we started having programs in here. We didn't have to rent the hall, and for our programs. So we made a shrine in the living room there. And I'm just showing you, this is another sunroom connected to the living room where we put the statue. And then, we started having regular programs here. For, Bhagavan's Jayanti, Bhagavan's Aradhana, Advent at Arunachala, and other things. I thought this is a beautiful picture here. 3 happy ladies. 4. Now, Kavita is the granddaughter of Kavi Mama. Granddaughter. And Kavi Mama's wife, Jagada, she gave her first child on Bhagavan's Jayanti, named him Ramana. And she had her, pre-birth of the first child, puja, in the ashram 3 weeks ago. And the baby's due on January 12th. Well, not again, Bhagavan's Jayanti. So then, Jim, this is even in 2009, Jim, I gave the football again. And this is a design for an extension. We bought this out with the intention we had room to extend and have a separate shrine room, which we thought was important. So Jim made all these designs, This is what we see now in reality. So we did, we built an extension, we built a shrine room, and this is the result. These columns are exactly like the columns on the veranda of Ramana Ashram, but they're wood. Ramana Ashram, they're stone. And if you go up, you see there's an area that rises up, you'll see windows all around. If you go into the new hall, you look up, you'll see a square and there'll be windows all around. So it's incorporating some of the designs from the structures of Ramana Ashram. It has heating in the floor. So this is the with the addition on. Now, on January 1st, 2012, that started. See, and then just last year, when I was in India, we had this Dakshinamurti carved. See, it's facing, that door is facing south, and that's the entrance to that door. So Ramana Satsangs in Canada. I don't know, blank, 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 all blank, blank. Okay. So around 1999, we used to go and visit devotees' houses, for decades and have, like a satsangs and, people who are interested. We stay overnight with them and a lot of devotees. But around 1999 in Ann Arbor, there was a couple there, Manta Prakash. And they were very keen, so we went there once or twice, and they said, we want to have regular. So they started having regular satsangs there. And we also, whatever we can do to encourage them. So they had regular satsangs. So we started listening in our newsletter, and then other people started getting interested. Now there's like 25 groups having Ramana satsangs around the country. And so there's a lot more, but that's the story in a nutshell.
This humble man has left a very important component of this story. And I'm going to take 3 minutes just 3 minutes, because he would never, this menace, Dennis the Menace, will never take credit for things. And this comes from Bandhu's heart today. I can boom up my voice, I don't need a mic. I've known him for 30 years plus. You saw that picture where he was sitting outside the 6th Street Ashram, and Bhagavat wrote pages after pages about how he made this man wait for so many hours with snow coming down. But go back 1 or 2 more days, or maybe a few days before then, what happened? Dennis had come back from Vietnam War, and he was at his mother's house. Now I'm going to tell this story, Dennis. Because
not 2 days, that's 2 years.
2 years, maybe 2 years. Well, it doesn't matter. But this is a prelude to the coming of the ashram, and it's very, very crucial that today we talk publicly, with your permission.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
2 are gone.
So he has come back from Vietnam War, and he has applied for a job in Tonawanda, where his parents lived, Jim, and they all lived. And he has applied for a local job. Look at the determination. You can go out of this room if you don't want to hear this.
I never got a job.
I'm saying you keep quiet. It's not your time. Look at the dedication and the devotion. He applies for a job, and he has determined that if this job call comes by such and such time, let's say it was 12:30.
I was 18 years old. You don't mind me.
So he decides that if this job call comes by this time, I'll take the job. Otherwise, I'm going to go to that ashram in New York. And
I can tell
that time, no, you won't tell the story. Otherwise you would have, otherwise you said it. This is the 50th anniversary. So the time, 12:30, the clock strike, 12:30, time passes.
Dennis, you
And
can't
the call.
interrupt. This is the teacher saying.
Thank you, Aparna.
Wait your turn.
Yeah. So the call does not come. He has a small bag ready to go to New York. He picks up the bag and is walking out the back door of the house when the phone rings. This is where the story really becomes crucial for us to understand as devotees of Bhagavat. And he referred to how Shraddha, how dedication, how studious practice brings in. We talked about this yesterday on the table.
Yeah.
Swaminathan. So he is about to leave when the phone rings. And he comes back into the house, picks up the phone. And it's the guy who had interviewed him, who had said, I'll call you by such and such time. He says, hey buddy, you interviewed, the job is yours. And Dennis says, I already accepted another offer. And puts the phone down. So this is the difference. Wait. This is the difference between us as devotees and Dennis as a devotee. And I speak I get overwhelmed talking about it. We all are part-time devotees. We have done our jobs, we did this. Here is a real full-time devotee, Bhagavan.
Yeah.
My father loved this man because he told me when he first met him at our small apartment in New York at Bayside that he had never seen a devotee like this. I've known many devotees in 60 years of my association with Bhagavan's devotees. I've never seen a devotee like this. And there's one more thing to this story. His war pension check had already started coming. He had come back from Vietnam War. after he came to New York Ashram, that first check that he received went into Arunachala Raman Maharshi Center account. Dennis, when I first met him, until date, didn't have a bank account, didn't have a credit card. And that check still goes in Arunachala Ashram account. That is the backbone. That's the backbone of this 50th anniversary. This is what makes an ashram. This is what makes devotion. And that's my humble submission. I'm sorry I had to share with everybody.
Since you brought that up about the bank account, when we bought that place, we had to take a bridge loan for $650,000. And to get a bridge loan, if you're a religious organization, you have someone has to back up that amount in cash in another account and you know, say they'll pay it if we don't pay it. We had no one who would do that or had that money. But I met a broker, a mortgage broker, and he looked at my credit rating. I had 820. I have no idea how it was like that. And then he said, "You're the president of this?" I said, "Yes, it's incorporated." It's incorporated. Okay, make me a portfolio of your income, your assets, and you know, your position. So I made it not as a church or a religious organization, an incorporation, a business. So I just said Arunachala Ashrama, I just gave all the accounts, and he got me a $650,000 loan on just on my credit rating, and that's why the country economy collapsed. Really. But we paid it back. We sold the building, we paid it back, and you know, other people helped. We took temporary loans from other friends just to finish it off. But I didn't, you know, have any bank account all those years. I opened it up, and I had to buy it in my name and get permission from the Attorney General of New York State to buy that property in my name, with the understanding I'm going to transfer it to the organization after I buy it.
You heard him refer to Adirondack initially when he was talking about where he was living in upstate New York. And that's another part of this small component. When Joan and Matthew, and they had already identified the house in Nova Scotia, to buy that home that he showed us the pictures of, a deposit had to be put down for that. And I don't know the exact details, but that house, and maybe Jim can correct me, that house that he had in Adirondack, that where he had thought he was going to live like a sadhu. He had already has cans of soups and things bought. And to put that deposit down for the Nova Scotia Ashram, he sold that Adirondack home, raised money from that, and put that money down, right? That's correct?
3 minutes is
That's correct. So that, you know, that's dedication. Ashram cannot build it.
writing the note and leaving home, I was 18 years old. And when I was 14 years old, I saw the movie The Razor's Edge with Tyrone Power.
Right.
You seen it? I said, wow, we can do something else with our lives. We don't have to go through the regular format that everybody was going with. There's some ideal there. Then when I was 18, that's true, I looked for a job, that's after high school. I didn't want to go to college. I said, let me find what's the purpose and meaning of everything. Why should I go waste my time in school when there maybe, seems there's something else greater than that. And so then I applied, I said, maybe I want to go into medical, I like to help people. So I applied at a hospital, just at a menial job. He gave me an interview, said he called me in 2 weeks. I was only 18. So since I did, and so he never showed up. He never called me. I waited 2 weeks to the day and said, what now? So I said, I want to pack my bag, wrote a note to my mother, borrowed $20. You know, that's all some scholar. I must have read Bhagavat. Like, wrote a note and borrowed $20 and said, I'll be in touch though. I didn't say that. I'm not going to go away. Just don't look for me. I'll be in touch. And I was walking out the door and the phone rang. And then he said, oh, I want to get a job. But my mind was already gone. I already left that town. So that's the simple story.
Dennis, you're in the spotlight right now.
Yeah.